Socialism is a scam, and I'm going to explain why exactly in this video. All right, you're watching SIDList, which stands for Shit You Didn't Learn in School. I'm your host, Pablo, and today I'm going to be going over the subject of socialism, all right? But before we get into that, I just got to state, like and subscribe. If you like what I'm putting out, if you like the videos I post, please share it with your friends. These videos are intended for people that are asleep, essentially, people that don't really know what they're talking about. I know a lot of people, there's a lot of smart people on the internet. They understand these subjects. They go out, they get involved in the political realm, and they have a very solid understanding of these subjects. But too often, people that are voting, people that are going around telling people how to feel and think, they are not educated in these things. And the whole point of these videos I've been putting out recently is to help educate people that just have no idea what the hell they're talking about. So if you know someone like this, I encourage you to watch this all the way through, share this with them so they know what to look for and how wrong they probably were about whatever the subject of the video is. Today it's about socialism, but you know, I've done videos on China, I've done videos on this whole pandemic, just a lot of stuff, and that's going to be like the theme of my show going forward. So with that being said, subscribe and you get all my videos. I'm on several platforms right now. I have a podcast, and in the podcast I go into a lot of detail about a lot of these things. In the videos I kind of just give you quick little, visual representation of a lot of these subjects. But yeah, find me on the podcast or find me in here. I'll leave all my links in the description because I'm on several sites, so I'm kind of jumping around a lot. But if you find me in any of those, please like and subscribe, share. I really appreciate it. Now, let's get to the video. All right, let's start with some definitions. Right now, let's start with socialism. This is what the Democratic Party has been pushing. If you know Bernie Sanders, he describes himself as a democratic socialist, which is a fancy way of saying that he's not like this socialist. He's a different kind of socialist. But let's just get into the definition real quick. What is socialism? Socialism is a political and social economic philosophy encompassing a range of economic and social systems characterized by social ownership of the means of production and workers' self-management of enterprises. What that basically means is this key phrase right here, social ownership. That is a fancy way of saying that the group gets to decide means of production. Everything revolves around the group of people. All right. It's not up for individuals. It's not up for private entities to make decisions for the group. That is basically what socialism is. Socialism is kind of a vague term because there's different forms of socialism. One of them being the new version called democratic socialism, which is what Bernie Sanders and AOC and that whole crowd, what they claim to be. But let's just read what this definition is. Democratic socialism is a political philosophy supporting political democracy within a socially owned economy. There you go, socially owned economy with a particular emphasis on economic democracy, workplace democracy, and workers' self-management within a market socialist economy or some form of a decentralized planned socialist economy. Basically, it's like saying it's socialism with a little bit of democracy in there. And that's a super vague term. It doesn't really explain what it really means. But it's funny that you're having Democrats claim to be socialists or democratic socialists. They put socialism as something that's the opposite of capitalism. In a lot of ways it is. But they try to say that democratic socialism is the opposite of what Donald Trump is. And Donald Trump, according to the communist news media, CNN, essentially what they always call Trump a dictator. They always call him Hitler. They call him a fascist. I don't know how many YouTube or little TikTok videos I've seen of these freaking women screaming their heads off at the camera saying, Trump's a fascist. I know we've all seen it. They make all kinds of memes, kind of funny videos, compilations of those kind of people. But that is a general misrepresentation of what that is, all right? To call Trump a fascist is to show the world your incompetence because you don't really know what a fascist is. It's almost exclusively people on the left that call Trump a fascist. But you want to know something funny? When they say fascism, they're talking about Nazis. Okay, they're talking about Hitler. They always say he's Hitler, right? But you know what Nazi stands for? If you look at it, Nazi is a acronym for the National Socialist German Workers' Party. Look at that. Nazis are socialists, i.e., socialism is fascism. All right, people make arguments. I've seen counterpoints to this saying, oh, no, socialist is a very vague term and they weren't real socialists. Really? That sounds like a cop-out. Because if you look right here, fascism is socialism. Here's the proof. Now, in this very first paragraph, there's a very good definition of how to explain it. But statism, in its fascism form, attempts to secure economic growth and prosperity by fusing a partnership between business and the state, absorbing businesses into the state in this process. Now, it makes the comparison to communism, which is like a really bad version of socialism. While communism, when faced with existing institutions that threaten the power of the state, be they corporations, churches, the family tradition, the communist impulse is by and large to abolish these things. All right. While fascist impulse is by and large to absorb them. Essentially, fascism is a form of hyper-interventionalism amounting to socialism. So basically what they're saying is communism and fascism aren't that different. But the biggest difference is the state, which is the people in power, the group, the social group, right? When communism, what they do is they abolish the corporations, they abolish the churches, they abolish the family and the tradition. All right, they abolish them. Fascists does something a little different. Doesn't abolish them. It absorbs them. It takes those corporations into the circle. It takes the churches into their circle. It takes the family and the tradition, all that, and absorbs it into them. All right. You got to look at what Nazi Germany did in the 30s, what Hitler did. He didn't abolish churches. He just implemented his own form of a church with his own cult that followed him, right? He didn't abolish corporations. He just made sure those corporations listened to the Nazi party. He didn't abolish tradition. He just tweaked the tradition and changed it in order to match what lined up with what he wanted, right? Here's an interesting story I found. Hitler Survivor has just 7 words for liberals equating Trump to Nazi leader. All right. This lady right here. All right. Inga Andrews, who survived adult Hitler's regime, has a harsh message for liberals comparing President Donald Trump to the Nazi leader. Yeah, see, like, sorry, but a lot of white women are doing this. I'm not trying to be stereotypical. It always seems like that's who it is. All right. Just, miscommunications between groups of people. All right. Here we go. Found it. Oh, here we go. Before Inga Andrews escaped Hitler's final solution, the Holocaust, she and her mother were forced to survive the catastrophic events brought about by Nazi Party socialism. See that? Socialism and racial hatred. What's kind of funny, you notice right now in our political landscape here in America is it's actually the Democrats that are the racist ones. All right. And they're always trying to say, oh, no, the Republicans, they're racist. Oh, no, the Donald Trump, he's the racist one. But it's always the Democrats that are always pushing for the race-based laws, for the race-based anything. All right. They feed off racism. All right. A lot of people don't know this, but the Democrats were actually for segregation. They were for segregation. Democrats were also slave owners. They were the South. All right. If you look at a map, all of the South was Democrats back in the day. All right. It's only been recently that they switched and became conservative, and Democrats have used that shift in region and stuff to be like, oh no, see, all the racists are in the South, which are all conservative now. See, they're the racists. See, all the Democrats in the cities now, we're all about racial equality. None's further from the truth. But I digress. It's a whole nother subject right there. But, okay. When the Independent Journal Review asked Andrews about her thoughts on leftists saying that Trump is a dictator, much like Hitler, she not only refuted this mistruth, because that's a mistruth, with personal experience, she explained that it's the destruction of freedom of speech from from liberal protesters that resembles Hitler and Nazi Germany. Quote, "What is going on in this country gives me the chills. Trump is not like Hitler. Just because a leader wants order doesn't mean they're like a dictator," Andrews told the Independent Journal. "What reminds me more of Hitler than anything else isn't Trump, it's the destruction of freedom of speech on the college campuses, the agendas fueled by the professors. That's how Hitler started. He pulled in the youth to miseducate them, to brainwash them. It's happening today. If you go on any college campus, there's a huge liberal bias that essentially kind of makes America look like guilty, and it's propaganda, folks. It's propaganda. They've been messing with our kids in the schools. That's why, if you ever heard of Louder with Crowder, he does those segments called Change My Mind, where he goes on to college campuses, he sets up a table, and he says a controversial statement like, there's only two genders. You know, the big thing right now, there's like several genders, you're either a man or male, or you're like something in between or something like that. He goes there, he says something that's more of a conservative opinion, and then he sits there and he allows people to come up and debate him. And he sits there and he'll have at it with, but he doesn't an argument, it's a debate where he's just like, look, this is my position, this is why I feel like that, debate me. Why do you feel the way you feel? He gets kicked off campuses a lot. College campuses do not like him showing up. Another one they do not like showing up is Ben Shapiro. Ben Shapiro is he's a huge conservative. All right. He's very conservative in nature with a lot of his values. And he's not allowed on college. He goes to college campuses a lot, but he meets a lot of resistance. All right. College campuses have a huge liberal bias, and they do not like conservatives showing up to give them a different opinion. All right. It's because they're censoring free speech. That's what it comes down to. They don't want people having freedom to think how they want to think. They don't like the freedom of ideas. That's what it comes down to. They don't like freedom of ideas. Okay. That is a huge socialist type, I don't want to say program, but kind of like narrative and method of controlling the population. So what we're getting here is Trump is not Hitler. He's not, because he's all about free speech. All right. And he's not socialist either. He's a capitalist. I mean, he's a businessman. He's Donald freaking Trump. All right. He's built skyscrapers. He's put thousands of people in jobs. He's made a lot of people money outside of himself. I mean, he's a capitalist through and through. Now, some people would be like, all right, well, what's the difference between capitalism and fascism? Well, this guy wrote a book about it back in 2013. So this is a slightly older book, but I'm just going to read you the preface of what it's about. All right. Fascism versus capitalism, the central ideological conflict of our times. Fascism has become a term of general derision and rebuke. It is tossed around casually in the direction of anything a critic happens to dislike. A critic, like Democrats, what they happen to dislike? Trump. So, i.e., they throw fascism at him because they don't like Trump. Because fascism is a bad word, because fascism is linked to Hitler. And anything Hitler is bad, all right? But fascism in a real political and economic concept, not a stick with which to beat opponents arbitrarily. The abuse of this important word undermines its true value as a term referring to a very real phenomenon and one whose spirit lives on even now. Fascism is a specific ideology based on the idea that the state is an ideal organization for realizing a society's and an individual's potential economically and socially and even spiritually. All right. Yeah, so basically, in a nutshell, fascism, the ideology behind it is it's the state is the only way to get there. All right, it's the state. When we say the state, that could be anything. Like in 1984, if you ever read that book, the state was Big Brother. In communist Russia, the state was the Soviet Union, the Communist Party. In China today, the state is the CCP, the Communist Chinese Party. In Nazi Germany, the Nazi Party was the state. Okay. It's that organization. It's they prop themselves up as we are the end all be all answer to all your problems. Okay. That's how fascism works. And this is hold on, which one is this one? Okay, look. I like this chart right here. This one is a comparison of communism versus socialism versus fascism versus capitalism. All right. Someone took the time, and he'll say this isn't 100% accurate, but I feel like it's pretty damn close. And I'm just going to read you through a lot of the comparisons. All right. Historically, communism started in Soviet Union. Socialism started in Western Europe. Fascism started in Nazi Germany and Italy, Rome. A lot of people forget this, but World War II, Nazis weren't the only fascists. The actual first fascist was actually Mussolini in Italy. All right. What else is in Rome and Italy? The Catholic Church. Now, I'm not going to make any else comparisons, but you let your mind flow. The country with the center of the biggest religion on the planet just happens to be also the birthplace of something like fascism. A little fishy, and I'll leave that there, but keep going. Capitalism started in the 18 to 1900s here in America. All right. This is an American thing, right? Capitalism. All right. Present day. They say it's weird that it's blank, but we know of several countries that have communism. Yeah, this is the part that's not accurate. All right. Communism today is in China. All right. Socialism, they say Western civilization. Fascism, they say America. What the fuck? Okay. I think someone's messing with this. This is weird. Because I actually went on this one not too long ago. And capitalism, it says none. That's weird. This should be right here. Okay, folks. Where is this? I think someone's messing with this, all right? Because fascism, there's not a state that's capitalist, but America's actually capitalist. So it's weird that they're saying America's fascist. I think what it is, they're calling Trump fascist. So like, oh yeah, so America's fascist because Trump's in there. That don't make no damn sense. Notable architects. They say the Illuminati is an architect of communism. I would tend to agree with that when you see the history of communism, the fact that between the Soviet Union, North Korea, China, Cuba, Venezuela, all of those societies had mass killings in droves of their own people. And I think only something as evil as an organization as Illuminati would be behind something like that. But socialism started all the way back when the Round Table. They don't really know. Fascism, okay, Rome again. Capitalism, Benjamin Franklin, Thomas Paine, Adam Smith, all the original patriots. So yeah, capitalism is an American thing. I don't know why the hell they had America right here. That'll make no sense. Okay, let's get to the juice of it. Economics. This is really where it really tells you the difference. Okay. In a communist state, economics, it's state ownership, meaning the state owns all of the economy, all means of production. All right. So in the Soviet Union and North Korea, and China by extension today, a lot of people don't realize this, it's the Communist Party that owns the economy. They get to decide who gets to do business, how much they charge for it, and who they get to sell it for. Socialism, it's hybrid. It's hybrid, meaning that depending on the form of socialism, because you'll find out that fascism and communism are forms of socialism, it's either private or state ownership. Fascism is corporate ownership. Like I said, the way fascism works is it absorbs corporations into the party instead of the state. The state abolishes it, but the fascism absorbs it. So that's why it says corporate ownership. Capitalist society has free market and it's all private. All right, and that's a big deal. All right, that's why capitalism's done so well comparatively to socialist countries, because capitalism, they try to demonize capitalism, say they're all greedy and everything. But I mean, people by default are going to be greedy, but the system itself is not greedy. The system was abused just like any other system could be. Okay. So when they say capitalism is evil, that's misleading. All right. Communism's evil. All right. Telling people and showing them that, hey, you can't buy from here, or you can only buy from where we tell you, you can only work where we tell you. That's making people slaves. That's evil. All right. And socialism, we'll get into that. It's not too different. Okay. Religion. All right. In these same societies, in a communist society and socialist, they call it humanism, which is a fancy word for atheists. All right. I'm not hitting on anyone's atheist. If you're atheist and you have your own beliefs, that's fine. But when you try disguising atheism with humanism, like it's some separate religion, humanism is just a fancy way of saying that they do not believe in a higher power. And it makes it easier to do evil things because you're not afraid of a hell, or you're not afraid of judgment, or you're not afraid of some kind of afterlife. And you feel like this is the only life you got to live here. So you don't care what you do to other people. That's why you see communist countries do some of the worst crimes against humanity. But fascism isn't too far behind. It's a state-sponsored religion. So with Italy in World War II, I think it was Catholicism. And with Germany, it was a Nazi party. They were the religion, all right, because they believed in a cult and all that crazy shit they believed in. Yeah, capitalism, any religion you want, or you can be whatever you want. Doesn't matter. It's not going to affect how you interact with other people, as long as you're kind to other people. It doesn't say it, but I'm assuming that's all they want, right? They just want you to be kind to other people. This is the one I feel like is the most important. Level of self-responsibility, meaning the level of responsibility on an individual within these societies. In communism, level of self-responsibility is low because you don't make no decisions for yourself. The state makes them. So you don't get to decide how well you do off in your world, how much money you make, or how nice your car is. It's not up to you. It's up to the state. All right. So your level of self-responsibility is low. Same with socialism. If we're going to take into consideration socialist programs we got here in America, this is the kind of argument you see from people on the right where they say that socialism's bad because you get things like welfare. People get lazy and they don't want to work. That's the low self-responsibility aspect of socialism right there. Fascism, same thing. You just got to do what you're told. The only one where there's a high level of being responsible for yourself is capitalism. All right. If you want a business, start it. You want a nice car, nice clothes, all that. You got to work your own ass off to get it. No one's doing it for you. You got to do it yourself. You got to be self-responsible. That's capitalism for you right there. All right. Personal growth, same thing. You can't grow in a society where they tell you what to do, but in a society where you're responsible for yourself, yeah, you can have a lot of growth. All right. Look at people like Donald Trump, Elon Musk. They start off maybe fairly okay, but they turn their decent amount of wealth into a huge amount of wealth. All right. Elon Musk is the second richest guy right now. All right. That's crazy. Centralized control. All right. This is also another aspect. Having a central control of the economy is important in communist states. All right. It's how they control who gets to buy what, who not gets to buy what, all that. All right. Socialism is the same thing. If you look at socialist programs they're trying to pass here in America now, they're trying to pass things like the Green New Deal. It's a social program because they're framing it in the thing that has to do with the environment and that it has to do with protecting the earth and all that. But when you actually look at the details, what they really want is they're trying to control what businesses can do with energy, what they're not allowed to do. Oh, you got to use electricity, not gas, or you got to use solar panels, not this, or hey, you got to destroy your building and rebuild it because you're letting out too many emissions. They're controlling everything from a centralized spot, which would be the federal government essentially. Same thing with fascism. You got to think everything Nazi Germany did during the World War II and how they mobilized all the factories and stuff to help produce tanks and planes and all that shit. I mean, America's done that similar thing, but they weren't really forced. They're incentivized, which is a little different. But there's no centralized control of our economy here in America, at least not yet. Not if they allow Joe Biden to go into office, which I don't think will happen. But centralized bank, same thing. We don't have one on a capitalist. Difficulty of living in society. It's easy but hard. Okay, I see what it's saying. You don't got to worry about much because of low self-responsibility, so it's easy. But at the end of the day, you're going to be living in hardship because you don't get to control your own prosperity. It's up to the state. And if you see how people live in China, people live in North Korea, how people lived in the Soviet Union, it's shit. It's horrible. And people like to say that, yeah, I mean, America's not the best anymore. We have a lot of poverty in this country than we're willing to admit. But at the very least, it's like, it's their lives are easy because they don't have a whole lot of responsibility, but it's hard because their life isn't being improved by anybody. All right. It's the same for socialism, communism, and fascism. But in America, it's a little different. All right. We have a lot of homeless people here, but it's not because we don't care about homeless. It's a fact that, say something a little controversial here. Not all homeless people are homeless due to something out of their control. There's a lot of homeless people out here that, sorry, they're just lazy. All right. I'm not saying that's true for every homeless person. I know a lot of people that have suffered things that put them in that position, but there's so many homeless people here. You can almost guarantee a lot of them just didn't try. They gave up. All right. It was too hard for them, and they couldn't make it. All right. So that's why they try to demonize capitalism, because there are homeless people here suffering, but it's because this level of self-responsibility is high here. Okay. You need to be highly responsible for yourself in order to make it. So it's hard initially, but once you get over that loop and you get a business and you make it and you start making money, it becomes easier because you've improved your life. All right. If you put in the work and you start a business, then down the road, it'll become easier because you're in charge of your own self. You buy yourself a nicer house. You can buy yourself better food. You can buy yourself better medicine, doctors and whatnot, and your life will be easier down the road. All right. So it's flipped. All right. From all these other versions of isms. Here's a good one. Level of intelligence required. Low to none in all of them. You got to be highly intelligent to make it here in America. That's true. All right. You don't see too many idiots at the head of companies. I mean, you do occasionally, but they didn't get there legit. Government ran by a dictator and a communist. Government ran by low middle class. That's never happened anywhere. This is like ideally what they think socialism should work like. Run by the low middle class. That's never happened anywhere. Fascism, it's the upper class corporations, aka the Nazi Germany folk. And in capitalism, it's elected congressional members. All right. Congress. Level of freedom, low. High in capitalism, they get to let you. Capitalism, it's the best form of government we have. Not government, level of ideology when it comes to the economy. It's the best one because it has all the self-responsibility on the individual, and individual has the most amount of freedom. So, that's why, when they say equality on the news or talk about socialism, equality is actually a scam. All right. Because they say equality like they mean, we want everybody to be rich. But when they say equality, what they really mean is they want everybody to be poor. They want us to be equal. They don't want us to be well off. All right. That's why they don't say we want everyone to be able to afford this. We want everybody to be responsible for themselves. Like, no, we want everybody equal. And if that means everybody's in a one bedroom apartment with, barely enough to eat day to day, that's okay with us. That's what equality means. All right. But in a capitalist society, it's not equal across the board. And it's not because it's not fair. It's fair because everybody has equal opportunity to get higher income, but not everybody takes it. And it's not really the responsibility of other people. If you don't want to get off your ass and you don't want to get a job or you don't want to work harder to try to get things, that's not everybody else's problem. You got to be responsible for yourself. That's why capitalism is the best, because it requires everybody responsible for themselves. All right. And I'm not disregarding issues that people have, like natural disasters and other things where like their livelihood is taken from them through no fault of their own. That's different. Okay. That's different. And it doesn't really apply to everything that happens. All right. Those are exceptions. Okay. Yeah, I'm not going to go through the rest of this. You can find this. I don't know why this is saying fascism is America. That's so weird. I think because I'd seen this before and it was over here, and I think someone updated it either to troll or to fuck with people. It's kind of weird, but anyways, it's probably a typo. But yeah, so you could tell that between the four, capitalism is really the only different one, and these three have a hell of a lot more in common than they want to let on. And if you look at the political spectrum right now, I'm not a Republican. And with everything going on in the news right now, I don't think Republicans are worthy of my vote because of the lack of help they're giving the president. But conservatism, all right, that ideology of let's keep it basic, let's keep it within capitalism, I support that. All right. It's everybody on the left that wants a free handout that they're in this group. All right. Communism and fascism are just different versions of socialism, but at the end of the day, they're the same thing. All right. It's low self-responsibility versus high levels of self-responsibility. And it's about social, like I said, social control of the economy. It's the state deciding who gets to buy what, who gets to make what, who gets what. You know, you ever seen Animal Farm, the cartoon? That was a cartoon about I think communism, but you know they don't really play it in school anymore. I don't think. Yeah, you know another thing that happened this year. Remember Antifa? Those guys rioting and burning and doing all this other shit that people on the left are claiming is a myth or an idea. They're not a real organization. You want to know why Democratic politicians this year have supported Antifa? Well, Antifa, this is their term. It stands for anti-fascist. So Antifa, they pretend to be against fascism. All right. So the narrative is that Antifa, they're anti-fascist. So they don't like Trump because Trump is Hitler and Hitler was a fascist. So they're putting themselves out in the public as, oh, we're anti-Trump because he's a fascist. So we're Antifa. But in reality, Hitler's brown shirts and Antifa are damn near the same thing. Okay. It's funny, was it? Let me just read you real quick. If you didn't know what the brown shirts were, they were like they were like Hitler's like street thugs. Okay. I'm gonna just read you real quick. How it came to be. All right. Hitler's brown shirts used Antifa tactics to overthrow Germany's republic. After World War I, Germany's economy suffered from depression and a devaluation of their currency. On January 30th, 1933, Adolf Hitler was elected Chancellor of Germany by promising hope in universal health care. Who else is promising universal health care right now? Think about that. Less than a month later, on February 27th, 1933, a crisis occurred. The Reichstag, Germany's Capitol building, was suspiciously set on fire with evidence pointing to Hitler's supporters. Hitler was quick to use this crisis as an opportunity to set aside Germany's Weimar Republic and suspend basic rights. What are Democratic politicians doing this year? Our crisis isn't a fire, it's this pandemic. And what basic rights are they suspending? Free speech, they're censoring everything in big tech. You're not allowed to walk outside without a damn mask. All right, it's like a right to breathe. You're not allowed to protest these lockdowns because they're health measures. So they crack down on the health measure protests, but racial justice protests are fine. Weird. Here we go. Hitler overthrew the traditional leadership of Germany by using riots to destabilize the country. What have we been seeing all year? We've been seeing riots everywhere. Huh, that's kind of weird. Hitler had a radical homosexual activist, Ernest Röhm, and his feared brown shirts, also called the stormtroopers, to storm into the meetings of his political opponents, disrupting and shouting down speakers. Brown shirts organized Antifa-style protests and street riots, smashing windows, blocking traffic, setting fires, vandalizing, and even beating to death innocent bystanders to spread fear and panic. They killed a Trump supporter in, I think it was Seattle or Portland, one of the two. I think it was Portland, a few months ago. Portland protests have been going on for months. They calmed down for a bit, but then a bunch of Trump supporters went through that town as in like a giant caravan of like pickup trucks. You know, get a little stereotypical there. Just a bunch of shit ton of pickup trucks went through Portland to kind of act as like an anti-Antifa protest. And they had the Trump flags. They just rode through town. They rode through the blockades to kind of give a middle finger to all the protesters there. But later that night, a Trump supporter got caught by himself, and one of these Antifa, it was confirmed he was Antifa, shot and killed this guy. And it took like 2 days before the U.S. Marshals finally caught up and in a gunfight ended up killing that guy. But that dude wasn't arrested right away. And it's a shame because it was pretty obvious that the Antifa, they're the actual fascists, which is really ironic. The whole reason they call themselves Antifa is the psychological trick. If they call themselves Antifa, then what they're essentially doing is saying anything we do, it's in the name of anti-fascism. So if you're against Antifa, they could turn around and say, oh, You must be for fascism. Oh, you support Trump and you're against Antifa. You must be for fascism. That's how they use it. I mean, like, I'm sorry, but stupid people fall for that. All right. Or just people not paying attention. I have a feeling that's a little bit of more stupid people, but Antifa, they just call themselves that and people believe it, but in reality they are the fascists. And it's funny that Trump has denounced them numerous times and actually made them listed as a domestic terrorist group, while Joe Biden has not denounced them. Straight up said that they're just a myth and an idea. They're not real. We have all kinds of footage of these dudes rioting, screaming Antifa, freaking burning down buildings and beating up Trump supporters. Like, it's like we live in an age where everything's recorded and they still have the nerve to lie like that. It's crazy. But what is the big thing with Democrats? All right, they're for socialism, but what's if they're not conservative, what's the other one, that other term like to throw around? Liberalism. All right, liberalism. All right, liberalism is a hoax. It really is. All right, and I've said this before on some of my previous videos where I was saying that the communist media is propaganda, like CNN, ABC, all the fake news media. It's communist propaganda. And what they do is they use the guise of liberalism as a Trojan horse for their propaganda. All right. This story is old. This was back in 2014. Okay. December 6th, 2014. And this guy was talking about right after St. Louis football game. So let me just read you the first paragraph. Okay. Talk about a dramatic entrance. When the St. Louis Rams took the field last Sunday, several teammates raised their hands, palms out. It was an act of solidarity with Michael Brown, the unarmed black teenager killed last August in a struggle with a white police officer. Moments before his demise, it is said, Brown raised his hands and pleaded, "Don't shoot." Now, I just want to point out for people who don't know this is actually debunked. That did not happen. That did not happen at all. But being National Review is one of the communist media, you got to look how they framed this whole thing. All right. First off, they said unarmed black teenager. What they failed to mention was this kid was struggling. I think it was Michael Brown. Forgive me. I might be confusing Michael Brown with another one of these incidents, but I think it was this one. It was the one where they said don't shoot, where he actually tried wrestling the gun out of the cop's hand. And in defense, the cop shot the guy. But they don't mention any of that. The first paragraph out the book, they say Michael Brown, unarmed black teenager, was killed by a white police officer. Not even just police officer, but a white police officer that supported. And he wasn't just an unarmed teenager or just a teenager. He was an unarmed black teenager. See, they try to make it about race. All right. They're making it about race because it's propaganda. All right. That's communism. All right. That's why I'm saying anything like this liberal stuff, it's propaganda. All right. And it's been in our country for a while. You could see that even back in 2014 that this was happening. This don't shoot incident was a much earlier incident of what we saw this year with George Floyd, where it was I can't breathe, or these other incidents where Jacob Blake, the guy that got shot in the back, who lived, by the way, he didn't die, but that guy was an accused rapist, and you had NBA players put Jacob Blake and shit all over their gear. It's like either one, they didn't know the truth, or two, they're in on the propaganda and they don't care. All right, so you see why NBA's ratings tank this year, and people are starting to become hip to this shit, and it's gotten out of hand. But I'm getting a little sidetracked. The whole point is liberalism is just a Trojan horse for propaganda. And propaganda, they want to make capitalism look evil, and they want America to look evil so that another country like, I don't know, China can overthrow us from within. But I want to take you to a quote from a previous president, all right? Ronald Reagan, okay? Huge conservative, but he had a quote that I think is very important. If fascism ever comes to America, it will come in the name of liberalism. All right. This is Snopes. I don't trust Snopes. All right. I just found the quote just to point to you that that's what Ronald Reagan said. But don't ever go on Snopes. Snopes is a fake site. They're not real fact checkers. Just want to point that out there. But he really did say this. All right. Even they say he said this. Okay. But what he was saying is what basically what I just said is liberalism is a it's a Trojan horse for fascist and communist tendencies. Okay, they say that police need to be defunded this year because they're racist. All right. But what they don't tell you is in every part of this country where the police were defunded, crime went up. Crime went up, and the people they were trying to protect were actually more in harm's way. There was like 2 or 3 kids that were killed in shootings this year that they didn't report on the news. All right. You had to go on social media to find this stuff out. And it's kind of sad that people fall for this. They're totally on the whole defund the police moment. And then those same areas, those same counties, or same cities are calling for more police only a couple of months after they implement those measures, because homicides shoot up, robberies shoot up, just all kinds of crime across the board shoots up when the people in that area know there's less police. It's common sense, all right? But that's because people fall for the propaganda. They fall for the brainwashing in the universities, and then the fake news reinforces that brainwashing. It's no wonder that we're on the cusp of a civil war, all right? Half the country fell for it. The other half of the country didn't. And now we're all at each other's throats. And that's because socialism is a scam, and they tried getting us with it. I'm going to end this video here. I'll probably do a follow-up video to this because there's so many more examples of why socialism is a scam. These are just the basic ones. And it was more of a video to show that Trump is anything but a fascist. All right. So many things Trump's done is exactly the opposite of fascism. All right. And it's sad that you're having all these people on Facebook and social media just screaming their heads off that they hate Trump because he's a fascist. All right. I think Alec Baldwin, which is the guy that played Trump on SNL, was going around making stupid comments like that, saying he's a Nazi dictator and needs to be beaten to death. I made some comment saying that he wished he got taken out like Rodney King and got his ass beat. What kind of person says that out loud? Especially a well-known actor who makes millions of dollars, and so you're going to call for violence against a political leader. That ain't fishy. That ain't fascist at all. Anyways, I digress. I'll end it there. If you like this video, go ahead and like, subscribe, share it with anybody. If you know someone that is one of these people that thinks Trump's a fascist and they think they're voting for capitalism when they vote Democratic, because they're not. They're voting for the opposite. So I'll end it there. You have a good day, and bye.